There's a study just recently put forward that talks about the negative implications of wastewater from data centers.
You don't want for like finances to be a barrier to a woman having this experience. So that means that we literally try to take as many people as we can.
May Day is about democracy, and we need to make sure that our voices are heard, that we're marching on the streets, that we're not shopping, we're not going to work. People need to understand that when we withhold our labor, we can make an impact.
It started raining when he came in, and he said it's raining, and I don't if there's anything in the rain, because the rain was black, and it literally looked like oil dripping from the bike.
People need to learn to see grasslands. So you're often they're perceived at like 90 kilometres an hour building along the freeway or something as this brown vacant fire trap full of snakes.
It's focused on eliminating collaboration with unions and with teachers on how public education should be run.
All right, folks, welcome to the Labor Radio Podcast Weekly. I'm Chris Garlock with Harold Phillips and Patrick Dixon, and this week, we're joined by Jerry Mead-Lucero, host of Labor Express Radio. Based in Chicago, the show covers labor issues locally, nationally, globally, probably intergalactically for all I know. From a working class perspective. Good to have you here, Jerry. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. Jerry, like Chris said, Labor Express Radio has been covering labor news from a working class perspective for God, it's probably more than 25 years, right? What prompted you to step behind the microphone and take over Labor Express Radio?
That's a funny story. You know, I found out the night before it was going to go off air that it was going to go off air. So I was familiar with the program already. I would listen to it occasionally when I was able to. Supported the idea very much of having working class voices on the air, having openings for the labor movement on the air. I mean, one of the most gratifying things of being involved in this project of the Labor Radio Podcast Network is to see the explosion of labor voices on the air, because when I started doing this, there was very few of us, as you guys know, right? It was very few. So the night before, the guy who had been doing it was having a variety of challenges and just couldn't continue. And I just, in passing conversation, heard this from somebody that was tangentially related to the program. And I said, that can't happen when there's so few, voices for working people on the radio or, on the airways at all. And so I said, well, let me see if I could help out somehow. And I thought that I was just going to be a transitional figure, make sure that I could keep it alive until somebody more, capable than I would step in and do it. Well, here we are.
All right, let's get to this week's show. Patrick, we do kind of have a theme this week. Do you want to talk about it a little bit before we get into the preview?
That's right. It doesn't seem the most traditional Labour topic, but we've got 3 shows that really look at the long-term consequences of different types of construction and industrial projects.
All right, let's do a quick rundown on what's coming up on the show this week.
We're going to begin with the Rick Smith Show, the massive expansion of AI data centers. I saw a TikTok the other day where they were driving past a data center under construction in Indiana, and they must have been driving about 40 miles an hour, and the video goes on for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, they're immense.
Rick's going to explore new research on the subject and why taxpayers are footing the bill.
And from My Labor Radio, how tradeswomen are building power and breaking barriers in something we've been talking about this whole time, the construction industry.
And on my program, Labor Express Radio, we're talking about plans for May Day in Chicago in 2026. This could be, I think, the largest turnout for May Day celebrations around the country that we've seen since 2006, which was when the big mega marches for immigrants' rights happened. And I think in some ways, this could be the most important since 1886, given the fact that, if there's a theme of this May Day, it's about, stopping autocracy in this country. So what else? What could be more important than that? So we're going to be talking about who's organizing it, what's going to happen, how you can get involved.
Plus, from working people, residents in Louisiana describe life on the front lines of industrial disaster.
From Stick Together, why protecting grasslands is a labor issue.
And on Radio Labor, Canadian unions push back against government overreach in public education. Plus, the school song.
Everybody knows about a random act of kindness. Everybody knows what it means to be a friend. Everybody knows where we belong here at school, singing this song. So come on, everybody, sing along.
All right, guys, let us get started. First up, the Rick Smith Show looks at the rapid expansion of AI data centers and the public cost behind the boom.
As it turns out, taxpayers are footing much of the bill, while communities face environmental and infrastructure impacts.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I find out in our neck of the woods there are going to be 3 data center campuses. They're going to have about 5 or 6 buildings on each of the campuses. Going to cover about 700 acres in our area. And I'm told about 400,000 gallons of water each and every day, and about a 1.3 gigawatts of power. And for those of us old enough to remember, you only needed 1.21 gigawatts to get back from the future. And here to share some thoughts on, what this means, for all of us, especially for education. I've asked Anthony Elmo to come share some thoughts. Anthony is the public education funding defender over at our friends at Good Jobs First. You can check out their website at goodjobsfirst.org. Anthony, thanks for taking time for us.
Happy to do it. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
So, I'm looking at these numbers. We're going to have this giant center in our neck of the woods, which is going to drain local resources. And I'm sure we're going to have a ton of money to go into this. My first thought, and I guess this isn't really, it's more of rhetorical than anything, is if this is the burgeoning industry, if this is where all the tech money is, why aren't they funding it themselves? Why are taxpayers on the hook? And why aren't they, building their own needs? Why is it always on us, the taxpayer?
It's the taxpayer. It's a fantastic question. The AI data center build out that's happening in the United States is one of the biggest capital expenditures in the history of the country. It's as big or bigger than the Manhattan Project, and it is also heavily subsidized, which many people would be surprised to find out and to know. That it is heavily subsidized. And so in Virginia report that you just mentioned and alluded to, the 2024 numbers were over $1 billion of subsidy and incentive. The 2025 numbers are approaching $1.9 billion of subsidy or incentive for the biggest tech companies of the world who absolutely positively do not need subsidies to build data centers. And so they will attempt to need to build them, regardless of whether they get $1 of taxpayer subsidy. And so I think that it's a great time for legislators and people from around the United States to start asking some serious and hard questions about the economics of this build out.
Yeah, the reality is, the weird part for me is, again, everyone seems to go after the education money. Why is this coming out of education dollars? It seems to me, if you're going to put these big tech things in your neighborhood, wouldn't you want to have an education system of workers who could, maybe fill those data centers, unless maybe there aren't going to be any real jobs there for workers anyway?
That's true. There is a lot to unpack there. Many people talk about competitiveness, and they're fearful about touching these tax incentives because they're fearful that the data centers may not want to come to their state. Virginia, just for example, is already one of the world's leading data center markets because of infrastructure, because of fiber, because of proximity to the federal workforce, public investment into public schools that have created a really strong workforce in the state of Virginia, built over decades. And those are really many of the big reasons that these companies are coming to Virginia and to other states to set up shop and set up data centers. It doesn't have anything to do with incentives. And I think to answer your first question about why we're devoting public school dollars to subsidize big tech, I think part of it is that these are runaway incentive programs. These incentive programs were not meant to be as big as they are now. Good Jobs First will hopefully release a study in the next few weeks talking about how states around the country decided how much they were going to spend on these programs, and they were wildly wrong about what those costs would be. In the state of Virginia, it was estimated that this program would cost anywhere from 15 to 20 million dollars a year, not anywhere approaching the 1.9 billion that it now costs the state of Virginia, which is a gigantic increase.
What's interesting to me, Anthony, is I go back to Amazon when Amazon was shopping around their second headquarters, and there was this every community, every city, everybody just whatever they could do to get some attention, and everybody knew where that headquarters was probably going to end up. It was going to end up either in the DC, Virginia area or somewhere in New York or one of the big areas. But every community across this country was just. They were doing everything they could do to get some attention, including giving away the baby in the bathwater. I look at here, the reports of the centers that are coming here, 400,000 gallons of water a day, 1.3 gigawatts of power. This area, I don't believe, can handle that kind of a loss without everyone paying the bill. So for me, I don't know that this has been really well vetted, especially among the population as a whole. And it just seems like it's being thrust on us like a lot of these pro-business schemes.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The environment, even moving beyond the economics of data centers, the environmental implications are serious. They are real. The academic research is starting to catch up now with the data center build out. And so we're starting to see legitimate academic studies, particularly in a place like Virginia. This was just put out by the Piedmont Environmental Council just recently, that there are serious air pollution concerns when it comes to data centers. This is a study done with a serious amount of academic rigor. And so these are some of the things that we're starting to see. We're also starting to see that there are implications to the water runoff and the wastewater from data centers, that there are potential health impacts from there. There's a study just recently put forward in Rolling Stone magazine that was built on academic research from the state of Oregon that talks about the negative implications of wastewater from data centers. And so the economics of this is not the only part of the story. There are serious environmental concerns and questions to be answered.
No, excellent point. Anthony Elmo, I appreciate the time. Great talking with you. I hope you'll come back and talk to us again real soon.
Hey, this is Lena from the Work Stoppage Podcast. We're a proud part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network, more than 200 labor radio and podcast shows across the country and around the world. The Labor Radio Podcast Network, where the people speak. Find us at laborradionetwork.org.
Next, from My Labor Radio, a conversation about building power in the trades.
Tradeswomen are organizing, mentoring, and making sure access to these careers isn't limited by cost or opportunity.
And it's about damn time, I'd say.
And now, here's your next episode of My Labor Radio.
All right, how you doing, everybody? Thanks for joining us. I am joined by Crystal Herrera. And Crystal Herrera is an IBEW member who works with TRADE, which is Tradeswomen Ran Association for Diversity and Equity. Tradeswomen Ran Association for Diversity and Equity. What a title. But TRADE is the acronym. Crystal, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we're talking about the Tradeswomen Build Nation, which is just a huge event. The power and the feeling in Chicago this last year was immense. Still my favorite, and I talk about it every time I talk to somebody that goes, is the banner parade. I am just geeked about that, because not just the feeling of the solidarity and all the locals and everybody's there representing, they're chanting, they got their own chants. Are you getting, like, let's say suppliers or contractors, do they want to chip in? Are you convincing them? Because you got to put the silver tongue on them. You got to put the hard work on them to get them to buy into it with you.
Yeah, so we've had a couple contractors donate. We can't,
Good.
because we're a 501c3. We can't have whoever wants to donate. We're able
Right.
to take those funds.
Right.
But it still is a lot of word of mouth. A lot of us just pounding the pavement and doing that work. So we also try to keep our door completely wide open and send anybody that needs assistance. So
Great.
we don't want for like finances to be a barrier to a woman having this experience. So that means that we literally try to take as many people as we can, whether they went last year, whether they've never been before.
Sure.
We also usually take a couple of pre-apprentices, which is our like women that are in the application process, like they're not even in the trade yet, just so that they can come into this community and start to build that before they even get in the doors, basically.
Right.
And we've seen incredible results with that. Like we have women that we did that for 8 years ago, and now they're journeymen donating to trade. Like, hey, here's $500. Like, I want to pay it forward. So
Right.
it's an incredible thing.
One of the things I liked on your website too was collaborate with unions and trade organizations to promote inclusivity. What a great, it's not a concept. It's like it should be, goes on the heels of what you're just talking about. That inclusivity is making sure that the foreman, the safety reps, all of them understand who's on the site and why. Have you been able to reach out and find some other women's committee and other type of folks that are doing something close to you, or are you pretty much it for right now?
We've had the best luck with other women's committees, and it's usually around us sending women to tradeswomen delegations. So they'll be like, "Hey, we have these 3 women that couldn't get sponsored by the local union. Can you guys help them out?" And we're like, "Absolutely. Give them our information. Let's do it." So we've had the most luck with that. But also, you have great tradeswomen orgs out there too. The National Tradeswomen Task Force is doing incredible work. Incredible work.
Yes.
I can't speak more highly of them. I'm on the steering committee over there. We're doing great stuff. And I feel like sometimes with different orgs, there's a lot of, oh, well, we can't work together because that's your pot and this is my pot. And it's at trade, we're throwing that out the window also. Everybody's great. Everybody's wonderful. Let's do it. We also have a space on our website where you can click on there and find access to different unions and how to apply at every different union.
Right.
We're working on a community page where you can find those different tradeswomen organizations, so you can also have access to them if you need it.
Yeah.
So we're again trying our best in our side quests, right? Because we also all have careers and academic careers, and we're all doing stuff. So we're trying to do what we can where we can.
Have a great night, sister. Thank you.
You as well.
Hey, this is Judy Ansell from the Heartland Labor Forum. We're radio that talks back to the boss, and we're proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network with more than 200 labor radio shows and podcasts from across the country and around the world. The Labor Radio Podcast Network, where working people speak. Find us at laborradionetwork.org.
So on Labor Express Radio, we're looking ahead to May Day 2026. Not far ahead because it's just around the corner right now, but coming up pretty quick.
I have to tell you, Jerry, if I did not, I run the Labor Film Festival here in D.C., and so basically I will never get to Chicago on May Day, which is really really unfortunate because I would love to be there, but we open our film festival on May Day, so not going to be happening.
Well, I can't be there either this year, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
The same boat, but yeah, there's nowhere like Chicago, of course, the home of May Day, to be for May Day. But I've had to be here in LA the last several years. So
as Jerry mentioned earlier, organizers say it could be the largest May Day mobilization in decades and one of the most important since the very first back in 1886, when Jerry probably was still broadcasting.
Yeah, this one's for the workers who toil night and day.
You're listening to WLPN 105.5 FM Chicago, and you're listening to Labor Express Radio, Chicago's longest-running labor news and current affairs radio program. News for working people by working people. I'm your host, Jerry Mead Lucero, and this is the Sunday, April 12th, 2026 edition of Labor Express. On tonight's program, I want to start getting folks ready for May Day 2026. Not that we haven't been talking about this almost since May Day of last year, including in our last episode just 2 weeks ago, because it's right around the corner. And May Day will not only likely be bigger this year than any time since 2006, but it may be more important this year than any time since the first May Day back in 1886. As working people face down with fascism in the U.S. and all that entails, war, poverty, the loss of democratic and civil rights, arrests, deportations, and killings, May Day can be seen as a sort of test of our collective power to resist. Indeed, throughout tonight's program, you'll hear repeated the phrase stress test or structure test. I think it's super helpful to understand May Day this way. For listeners less familiar with the lingo of the labor movement, a structure test refers to a point, or really points, usually it's more than one, in an organizing campaign in which you take actions to test your collective power, your ability to mobilize workers to take action against the boss. It's not an end in itself. It's not the strike or a direct action that you're building towards, but a dress rehearsal in a way, a method of gauging your strength while also building that power at the same time. It's really useful to see May Day this year in that light. Working people will likely need to mobilize in a way that we really have not seen in this country in order to save our democracy. And I'm not talking just about elections, as important as they are. I mean mobilizing in the streets, and not purely symbolic things like no kings, but in a way that shuts the system down, that hits the ruling class where it really hurts, in their pocketbooks. So let's talk May Day 2026 in Chicago. It's really right around the corner, just 19 days, less than 3 weeks away from the original airing of this program. Are you ready? Well, tonight's program will help inform you and hopefully inspire you to be a part of it. Let's start off with the basics, where and when. So the annual May Day plaque dedication that happens at Haymarket Square on the Haymarket Monument, that will happen in the morning on Friday, May 1st at 9 a.m., roughly from 9 to 10 a.m. It's going to include an important special guest this year, UAW President Shawn Fain, and as well as a representative from the CGIL, which we talked about in our last program. This is the Italian General Confederation of Labor, and both the United Auto Workers and the CGIL will be putting plaques on the monument. So that's at 9 a.m. on Friday, May 1st. And then follows the big march and rally. So at 1 p.m. in the usual spot over at Union Park at 1501 West Randolph Street in Chicago is where folks will gather for the rally, and then the march will depart from there and head into downtown Chicago. Again, that's at 1 p.m. on Friday, May 1st. Gather at Union Park at 1501 West Randolph Street in Chicago. Chicago is right at the center of the National Organizing for May Day 2026, as you would expect it to be, as the home of May Day itself. And like much of the organizing across the nation, teachers' unions are at the forefront. Probably no other organization in the country is as central to organizing for May Day as is the CTU, the Chicago Teachers Union. The CTU held a vote of its members endorsing a day of teaching in action in March, which they had negotiated with CPS in their most recent contract, declaring May 1st a civic day of action. So Chicago public schools will largely be shut down and teachers, along with their students, out in the streets after first holding teach-ins at their schools in the morning that Friday. So it makes sense to begin with hearing from the CTU and one of Labor Express Radio's closest comrades, Jackson Potter, Vice President of the Chicago Teachers Union. In this short video posted online following the announcement of the May 1st as a civic day of action.
We're talking about May Day. We just took a vote, overwhelming. All our leaders across CPS saying no work, no school, no shopping, in the vein of what Minneapolis did on 123, because we want ICE out of our cities. We want to preserve and save and advance our democracy. We want to tax the rich for our people. What do you all think? What's May Day about?
May Day is about democracy, and we need to make sure that our voices are heard, that we're marching on the streets, that we're not shopping, we're not going to work. People need to understand that when we withhold our labor, we can make an impact. When we withhold our attendance and our participation in this economy, we make an impact. And that billionaires and millionaires don't keep the world turning, we do. And May Day is an opportunity for us to show that. ICE can no longer come in and terrorize our communities. We need to stop spending billions of dollars on bombs that are killing children and families. We need to be able to have diplomacy in this moment, seek global peace, and make sure that we're fighting for affordability in the moment where it means the most.
As I mentioned already, and I'm certain that all of our listeners already know, Chicago is the birthplace of May Day, starting with a massive real general strike on May 1st of 1886 for the 8-hour day, which led a few days later to the tragedy of Haymarket. Kathy Henshaw of Workers United, a union originally born out of the garment worker struggle, discussed this history in her comments.
33 South Ashland. This is a building steeped deep in the history of the labor movement and original home of the Amalgamated Clothing Workers. a union born from the struggle of garment workers, many who were women and most of who were immigrants. A union born from the 1910 garment workers strike in the city of Chicago, with 40,000 workers on strike in a demand for safer working conditions and against reductions in pay to cuts to piece rates. We are a union born from the struggle of the workers of the 1886 Chicago Haymarket Square protest, a protest by mostly immigrant workers fighting for better, safer workplaces and against tyrannical employers and the corrupt elected officials who supported them. The protests turned violent and lives were lost. The events surrounding Haymarket Square, the brutality and mistrust of the police and the elected officials galvanized support for the workers of the labor movement around the world. The Haymarket Massacre was a pivotal event that led to the establishment of May Day. May Day, a day of remembrance and a call to action on behalf of workers and workers' rights. May Day, or International Workers' Day, is recognized around the world. It is memorialized with rallies and demonstrations to advocate for social justice, economic equality, and improving worker lives. Today, we are all standing before you for a call to action for this upcoming May Day, May 1st. A call to stand together in solidarity as workers, as a people, to exercise our collective power and to send a very clear message that we will not accept the attacks on our communities and the ripping apart of families and the disappearance of our neighbors. We will not accept the attacks on workers and their collective bargaining rights. We will not accept the attacks on public education. A call to action on May Day to stand united to put an end to the dismantling of public services and programs. A call to put an end to abuse of power that has resulted in the largest wealth transfer in the history of the world, benefiting corporations, millionaires, and billionaires. And a call to put an end to those same abuses of power which has resulted in the deaths of sons and daughters in a costly illegal war. On this day, May Day, we will exercise our collective power by no work, no school, and no shopping. We will hold complicit corporations accountable and exercise our collective power to demonstrate, to rally, to march, to protest, to take action based upon whatever is possible, and to fight back and resist in whatever forms are available. We invite all to join us in defending our democracy and join us in a demand to build a society that works on behalf of everyone, not just a few.
Labor Express is a proud member of the Labor Radio Podcast Network, working people's voices broadcasting worldwide 24 hours a day. Find out more at laborradionetwork.org. The song is our theme is called Worker Songs, written by Ed Pickford and recorded by the Dropkick Murphys. Tune in every Sunday at 8 p.m. on 105.5 FM or lumpenradio.com for more Labor Express.
Yeah, this one's for the workers who toil night and day.
On Working People, we hear from residents in Louisiana dealing with the aftermath of a chemical plant explosion.
Their stories highlight the human cost of environmental disaster and the fight for accountability.
Listen to this program was really powerful. I mean, there's some really moving stories from the people that have been impacted, and this has happened over and over again. I want to get this out because it's going through my head since listening to it last night. I was involved in going down to do a lot of reporting on New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, right? And one of the things that came out of my experience with that was how much the various government institutions, industry, and so on failed folks, right? And how working people, working class solidarity, working class mutual aid was the only thing that got people through in that situation, right? And to listen to the stories too about how the people from East Palestine are supporting these guys down there in Louisiana, it's that same story over and over again. And I was also involved, in my neighborhood in Pilsen in fighting with an EJ organization. They're fighting polluters there, and to hear some of those same stories repeated again by the folks again in Louisiana, it's really some moving testimony that I really encourage people to check out.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to Working People, a podcast about the lives, jobs, dreams, and struggles of the working class today. My name is Maximilian Alvarez, and today we are diving back into our ongoing coverage of the corporate and government pollution that is harming our bodies, disrupting our livelihoods, and turning more and more of our homes into so-called sacrifice zones, where poor and working people are being abandoned to live in conditions that threaten life itself. And as we've done in East Palestine, Ohio, here in South Baltimore, Conyers, Georgia, and Granbury, Texas, we're going to take you straight to the front lines and speak directly with the people who are living, working, and fighting for justice in America's sacrifice zones. And today we are going to Roseland, Louisiana, a small town in Tangipahoa Parish with a population just shy of 1,000 people. You may recall hearing about Roseland back in August of last year when a horrifying explosion at the Smitty's supply facility and a fire that burned for days sent black smoke into the air and oil and chemicals into the nearby land and waterways. As Leslie Mueller reported in October for the Louisiana Illuminator, quote, large amounts of petrochemicals still blanket nearby bodies of water 6 weeks after an industrial facility fire and explosion in Tangipahoa Parish, where some affected residents believe the federal and state government have failed in their response and aren't telling the truth about the health and environmental risks. Residents across Tangipahoa Parish have reported property damage after the August 22nd chemical fire at Smitty's Supply. The incident sent smoke, soot, and oily residue into the air and onto nearby homes, businesses, and an elementary school. Petroleum products from the plant also spilled into area waterways, including several adjacent ponds and the Tangipahoa River itself. Oily materials have traveled nearly 40 miles down the waterway that leads to Lake Pontchartrain. Within days of the explosion, the EPA received an inventory list of the chemicals at the Smitty's plant at the time of the incident, but the agency withheld the information from the public for 5 weeks. The EPA finally disclosed it to the Illuminator last week only after the agency got permission from Smitty's supply executives to release it. Detailed on a 305-page spreadsheet, the inventory list included a variety of flammable and otherwise hazardous products. Rough estimates indicate Smitty's Supply stored several million gallons of motor oils, lubricants, and various automotive fluids. Hydraulic fluids, gas mixtures, methanol, drilling oils, solvents, acids, bases, and other petrochemical products were also part of its inventory on hand, end quote. And we're going to dig into this story today, and I couldn't be more grateful to be joined on the show by Arlene Bankston, a resident of Roseland, Louisiana, and Allie Ponville, a resident of Amite, which is the town right next to Roseland, both of whom are living, very close to the Smitty's supply facility. I want to just turn the floor over to y'all and ask if you could, walk our listeners through first what it was like to live through this, horrific fire and explosion at the Smitty's supply facility in your backyard. Could you just like tell us what it was like in your life and what was going through your mind as you were responding to this industrial disaster?
Hi, Max. Thank you so much for taking the time to let us have a voice, because that's been hard. It's been hard to feel like we're unheard. On the day of the explosion, I was mowing my grass. I had my headphones going, and I knew it was supposed to rain that afternoon. So I started hearing what I thought was thunder in the distance. And I thought, oh, well, it's going to rain earlier. I'm not going to get to weed eat. Let me hurry up. And I end up getting, just about the time I'm finishing mowing, going to go get my weed eater, I get a text from a friend whose child goes to the elementary school in Roseland. He screenshotted me the message that he had gotten from the school that there was an explosion at the Smitty's plant. They were evacuating the school. And then I realized that's what I've been hearing, instead of thunder, I've been hearing that. Like I said, I'd had my headphones on, listening to music. And so I immediately, text my husband. He called me and I said, they've evacuated a 1 mile zone. We're 4 miles from the plant. The house is 4 miles. We have close to 60 acres. So we're between 3 and 4 miles if you look at all of our property. And so he said, finish, put up the mower and everything, go feed the cows, and then go in, shower, pack a go bag just in case. So I did all that, still hearing the explosions. I have video, you could see the smoke plume, just kind of paying attention. Are they going to evacuate further or anything like that? Which they didn't. Well, we have cows. We have at the time, we had close to 50 head of cattle on the place. Well, then it starts raining. And we said, well, we have several watering troughs. All but one of them are under a covering. So he said, well, we need to go out and empty that watering trough because it's raining. It had started raining when he came in. And he said, it's raining, and I don't, if there's anything in the rain, because the rain was black. So we went out. By this time, it's a good steady rain. And it literally, we have a side-by-side Polaris Ranger, and it literally looked like oil dripping from the bike. So why, if these chemical plants aren't following protocol, and I know Smitty's wasn't, again, first of all, my husband worked there. Second of all, the week of the explosion, the local news interviewed a lady who said, everybody that works there knows they don't follow a lot of safety protocols. You could talk to employee after employee that worked there and they could tell you stories about how they didn't follow a lot of safety protocol, cut corners here and there. So if you've got a restaurant that could make potentially 50, 100 people sick because they're not following certain safety standards, they're shut down. Why are these chemical plants not shut down? And to be perfectly honest, in Louisiana, there's actually statutes that if the industry, the company in question, can prove that paying such fine would be detrimental to their business, they can get out of paying the fine. Not only do they not get shut down, they can get out of paying the fine. I get industry brings money to the state. I get that. But at what cost? There has to be a balance. They're just allowed to do what they want to do because they bring money? Now, I'm sorry. That's a big problem.
I'm Maximilian Alvarez. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.
From Australia Stick Together, a look at disappearing grasslands and what that means for workers and communities.
It is a reminder that environmental issues are labor issues as well.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Stick Together. I'm Amy Ciara, my pronouns are she and her, and you're listening to the only national program focusing on union news, workers' stories and social justice issues. We now turn to an interview between myself and Adrian Marshall, facilitator of the Grassy Plains Network in Victoria. We discuss the desperate state of grassy plains in Victoria, issues surrounding compliance with their care and why they require a skilled workforce. This originally aired on 3CR's Kill Your Lawn and Kick Your Fence.
We started about 5 years ago. We came out of a conference, group of community members, academics, ecologists, all concerned about the, dire state of native grasslands in Victoria. For a couple of years, we were very generously funded by a philanthropist, and then we're part of the Victorian National Parks Association, which has been around for about 70 years or so. So we do a lot of advocacy and engagement around native grasslands. So native grasslands, there's like 0.56% of them left. So 1/200th of the original, huge plains that went from the Yarra River, Birrarung, all the way to Portland and the South Australian border. We've only got like 1/200th of them left. It's about the most endangered ecosystem in Australia, probably. Yeah.
That's decreased from a number that I heard you give like a year or two ago on a different show.
That's true. The I got my hands on some good research from the Arthur Riley Institute, part of CSIRO, and they. Yes, the latest data, 0.56%, and they reckon that's an overestimate. So, pretty grim. Dispossession of First Nations people across Victoria happened at the same time that the pastoralists came in and basically did this giant resource extraction. We had a grass rush before the gold rush.
Yeah, and now we have a housing rush.
Yeah, we do indeed, that's right, and that's putting lots of pressure on a lot of the grasslands we have left, because surprisingly a lot of them are actually around the edge of Melbourne and in the west and north of Melbourne. Let's
dive a little bit more into why they're important.
Okay, well, Why are grasslands important? Hell, just because they're our local identity. They're what Australia is or was before colonial settlement landed on it. They provide the urban resilience, I suppose. If you want to think about it in human-centric terms, it's like grasslands filter the water. They create all the insect stuff that helps pollinate crops and the whole sustainability thing. It's they often protect areas from sea level rise and so on, coastal grasslands, coastal ecosystems, and grasslands along estuarine and river systems and so on too. We are very tree focused, I suppose. Like people need to learn to see grasslands. So they're perceived at like 90 kilometres an hour belting along the freeway or something as this brown vacant fire trap full of snakes or something, while what I spend a lot of time doing is getting people out into a grassland and going, oh, look, there's a daisy, there's an orchid. So between the tussocks of grass, all the biodiversity that's in there. It's not actually the grass, it's the stuff between the grass that's the real focus.
Are grassy plains mostly affected by property developers at the moment?
Property developers are a big one, yes. It's that and big infrastructure and I suppose private landholders too, who are doing grazing and stuff. But no, property developers, especially because it's around the edge of the city and so on, like where we've got a lot of our remnant grassland left. So yes, they try everything. And the worst one is, I suppose, clearing by neglect in a way. So you just grasslands need to be looked after. Like you have to get rid of their biomass, you have to get rid of all the dead thatch and open them up and so on, so light and water can get to the soil. And if you don't have any grazing or any burning, if you just let them go, the weeds get in there, the whole system can collapse really quite easily. So and it's one of the real problems with colonial dispossession of the First Nations people, is we lost all of that management.
And of course, the continued destruction is so traumatizing for them because it's country, it's sacred.
Absolutely. Yeah. So developers, yes, they're certainly leading the charge in the loss of grasslands one way or another. And not a lot gets done to like there are rules and regulations, there are plenty of those.
Yeah.
But it's just like who's doing the policing.
You were just listening to an interview between myself and Adrian Marshall of the Grassy Plains Network. That's it for Stick Together this week. If you want to catch up on the program, the podcast is available at 3cr.org.au or at your favourite podcast site.
And from Radio Labour, unions in Canada are pushing back against new legislation affecting public education.
Critics say it centralises power and sidelines educators and communities.
This is Solidarity News on Radio Labour.
This is a Radio Labour Canada report recorded on Friday, April 10th, 2026. I'm Mark Belanger. In the report this week, how the Ontario government is taking over school boards and putting police in the schools. The Labour Start report about union events and singing.
Everybody knows where we belong, here at school, singing this song.
This is Radio Labour.
This bill is taking away the ability for parents and for the public to have oversight over how public education is funded.
That is Stephen Skotayan, president of the Ottawa Carleton Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario. The federation, known colloquially as ETFO, has 83,000 members that include public elementary teachers and other educational professionals. Together with other education unions, the federation is objecting to the provincial government's Bill 33, the Supporting Children and Students Act. The unions call the bill a regressive piece of legislation that does nothing to support students and everything to consolidate power in the hands of the Minister of Education. It grants the minister the power to take over school boards and appoint supervisors to run them. I asked Mr. Skotayan what exactly the unions are objecting to.
Specifically, it's focused on eliminating collaboration with unions and with teachers on how public education should be run. It's making the whole institution much more authoritarian and making decisions that aren't reflective of the needs in the system itself. And it's not anything different than what we see in healthcare or elder care or other public institutions we have that are just really the foundation of our communities right across this province and right across the country.
So what does the bill do?
It gives the power for the ministry, and we see that in 8 different district school boards across the province, the power to put supervisors in charge of the school board. That means eliminating elected trustees. And those elected trustees, in our example here in Ottawa Carleton, that's 12 trustees that were elected in districts across this region that are there to debate education initiatives around learning, around special needs, around just the budget and how much money we should spend in all those areas. So that alone, that provision alone in this bill is taking away the ability for parents and for the public to have oversight over how public education is funded. And it's a huge overstep. And we see that in the legislature. When they have that majority, they are making decisions without consulting. And many parents have relationships with those trustees. They remember their campaigns. They went out, they voted, and they reach out to them when they have concerns about how their child or their grandchild is experiencing education in the classroom. It's a really, really important piece that is will have a devastating impact and is having a devastating impact in 8 districts so far across this province.
What does EDFO want the government to do?
EDFO wants this bill to be completely repealed. It's not the way we should be making decisions. I mean, there's so many pieces to this. The crisis in special education, the violence in the schools, the class size conversation, all are being impacted by this bill. And these issues have been brought up by teachers through their union. And lots of people talk about unions as being, they are saying things that their membership don't necessarily agree with. I can tell you that in my work locally here in Ottawa and provincially, when I go to rep council meetings, I know that members stand behind these specific pieces that are being devastated by the elements in this Bill 33. They need to start engaging with teachers, engaging with education unions to talk about how we're going to meet the needs. We're talking about 30 years of a funding formula devastating the public institution.
Now, here is Glenn Colton with the school song.
Everybody knows about a random act of kindness. Everybody knows what it means to be a friend. Everybody knows where we belong here at school, singing this song. So come on, everybody, sing along. I will not hurt anyone on the inside. I will not hurt anyone on the outside. Respect you and me, it's our responsibility, 'cause we're a part of this community. Everybody knows why we are making healthy choices. Everybody knows what it means to say I care. Everybody knows where we belong here at school, singing this song. So come on, everybody, sing along. I will not hurt anyone respect, you and me. It's our responsibility, 'cause we're a part of this community. 'Cause we're a part of this community.
And that's it. Labor news you can use. I'm Mark Boulanger. Thank you for listening. And remember, it's all about solidarity.
Now it's time for our speed round. Shows you should know.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. I like it.
Friday.
Bob Scott with Mickey Huff.
It's like this every week. It's not you, Jerry. Just so you know.
This is great. I'm loving this. This is great.
Bob and Scott talk with Mickey Huff about muckraking and the need for independent media on the Green and Red podcast.
Randy Corrigan joins Riverside Rank and File to discuss the future of union labor and why workers are demanding real action. Is this Riverside, California?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, oh my God. So on this program, I find out that there is a program that's right in my own county here in California. And on My Labor Radio, I found out that there is a program that our neighbors just over the border in Indiana from Chicago that I was familiar with. So this is like, I'm learning about my neighbors here in today's program.
We're here for you, man. We're here for you.
What the network is all about, actually. It's like connecting people. And this Riverside Rank and File episode is a perfect example of that. Randy is the host of Worker Power Hour. And he came on to Riverside Rank and File and talked about stuff. So yeah, the more we see this synthesis in the network, I think the more we have those conversations you were talking about before, Jerry.
I got to reach out to this guy. Yeah.
And I think I'm sorry, Patrick. I think Bob and Scott will be co-hosting with us next week. Is that right? I know Scott confirmed and Bob's a maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Woohoo! All right, Patrick, go ahead.
Well, and I think if you stay subscribed, you may well hear Steve Matthews joining us at a future date as well. That's the host of Riverside Rank and File.
That's right.
We are going to get them all in here. We're going to get them all.
Excellent.
The Work Stoppage crew talks with organizers from the Caucus of Rank and File Electrical Workers about union democracy and the fight against ICE terror.
The Labor Notes podcast explains why your favorite soup movie is actually about organizing.
I have no idea what a soup movie
I
is.
assumed everybody knows this, but me. I haven't a clue. I guess I'll have to listen to the show.
No idea.
I didn't know I had a favorite one either.
And I'm a film guy, so I don't. That was totally out of the blue.
It's probably a young. It's probably a young people's thing.
Yeah.
And on the line, Stories of BC Workers tells the story of the 1965 Grand Duke mine disaster when an avalanche killed 26 workers.
All right, folks, that is it for this week's Labor Radio Podcast Weekly.
This podcast is recorded under a SAG-AFTRA collective bargaining agreement.
You know it is, because we are all about the organized labor. This week's show was produced by Chris Garlock, Patrick Dixon, and me, Harold Phillips, with guest host this week, the amazing, legendary Jerry Mead Lucero, host and producer of Labor Express Radio.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is the most fun I've had in a while, to be honest, and I'd be happy to come back anytime.
We'll hold you to that.
I'm so happy, but Jerry, if this is the most fun you've had, you may want to look at things.
I may be saying a little bit too much about my life these days too, but it was a lot. It was really a lot of fun.
You'll find links to every show at laborradionetwork.org.
And you can follow us on social media with the hashtag LaborRadioPod.
Support the network with the union-made T-shirts, 2 colors, all sizes at laborradionetwork.org. And let me say, this is a case where the size is really what it's supposed to be. I wear them all the time, and it's so easy to order because the size actually is what it's supposed to be.
Well, and if you folks are headed to Labor Notes in Chicago this year, you're going to see a lot of those t-shirts because a lot of us are going to be there wearing them.
Jerry, you're going to be there, yeah?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right.
Hey, everybody, stay active.
Stay tuned to your local labor radio and podcast shows.
And we will see you all next week.
All right. Solidarity, everyone.
Solidarity, y'all.
Solidarity.